Okay, looks like we're being live streamed, and we are now live on YouTube. Okay, everybody. Harry Ramsbottom here. I think Ed is in his place of work and should probably be popping off camera right now, and Christine is on her way in. But let's just go ahead and get started on, I don't know, what happened this week? Anything new with you guys? All right. Yeah, obviously, we had a kinetic weekend. By kinetic, I mean bombs were dropped, and the liberal world, our viewership has been split five ways from Sunday on opinions on what should be happening, what has happened, what will happen, et cetera, et cetera. But let's just talk about some facts right now. The fact is that we dropped 14 what you might call bunker buster bombs on three facilities in Iraq. Two of them got the bunker buster bombs because they were underground. That was Natanz and Fordo, with most of them going to Fordo. And then the third facility in Isfahan was more of a surface facility, and that got the bulk of the Tomahawks, which I forget how many. I think 40 maybe. I don't remember. The reality is it was like we do with most of our air attacks. It was phased and it was multi-layered. It was a complex attack. So there were certainly B-2 bombers, which are the only bombers that can carry these bunker busting bombs, which is why the U.S. did it, because nobody else has the bomb or the aircraft that can carry it. We're the only ones in the world that could have done that. And then the rest of the airplanes, I'm thinking most of them came from aircraft carriers in the Eastern Med, paved the way for them by suppressing enemy air defenses. According to the Pentagon, and in reality, I actually believe this is probably true, they did not receive a single missile fired at them on the way in or on the way out. We'll learn more about that, but we didn't lose any aircraft regardless. And why? Well, a couple of reasons. One, because the Israelis wiped out most of Iran's air defenses in the past couple of weeks. They just don't exist. They don't have the aircraft, they don't have the missiles, they don't have the radar systems, they don't have the communications to be able to either detect or interdict or intercept our aircraft coming in, which made it a very easy mission for us to do. And we'll talk about more about that in a minute. The next thing is that, of course, when we go in there, we suppress those enemy air defenses with our own missiles and systems, with a lot of electronic warfare. A lot of what's on that B-2 bomber is electronic warfare, meant to blind the enemy and deafen them so they can't talk to each other or see us or hear us. And then, of course, the suppression of enemy air defense. So we take out those missile systems with our own missiles on the way in. That would be from the aircraft coming in from the aircraft carriers. So, by the photographic evidence that we can see, the mission was at least successful in that the bombs did hit the target, or at least the target area. Given that these bunkers were, let's just say, hundreds or at least 100 feet underground, we really don't know what it looks like down there. But each of those bunker busting bombs, they weigh 40,000 pounds apiece. Excuse me, 30,000 pounds apiece, and they have a 5,000 pound warhead, meaning that once it burrows its way down into the soil like a lawn dart, gets down there, hits the desired depth, and then that 5,000 pound explosive goes off. The concussive effect through the rock and dirt and concrete and whatever else is down there is designed to destroy that bunker underground. So for those of you who are looking at the pictures they see online and say, well, I don't see anything destroyed, there's buildings on top that haven't even been touched. Well, the buildings weren't the target. It was the things underground that were the target. And you don't know if they've been touched, and no, neither does anybody else except the people who are there right now. But we will be able, over the next days and weeks, be able to see the effects of it based on what comes out of the ground. There are certain measuring devices that we have hovering around space and in the atmosphere that will be able to sniff and snort and smell and see things that we're looking for. And by that, I mean, without getting too much into it, we're looking for chemical traces, like you would in a spectrograph in a lab. That's all I'm going to say about that. But we do have what we call MASINT, measuring intelligence, that can tell us what's going on out there. Now, all right, so we hit the facilities. We may have destroyed the facilities. We certainly damaged the facilities. And oh, by the way, even if we didn't destroy the labs, we probably at least destroyed the tunnels into and out of those labs. That somebody's going to have to dig them out. So let's just assume that we did some damage. Now, New York Times is reporting that we don't know if we got the enriched uranium. It's true, we probably don't. And there is evidence that trucks were lined up at a gate in the days and weeks before, which could have been taking things out, could have been taking things in. We don't know. At least we, the public, don't know what was in those trucks. We just see trucks. It could be any number of things. But let's assume worst case scenario, and a military planner would, if those trucks took that material out of the labs, then it could be anywhere. So what is that material? Well, as best as we can tell, again, worst case scenario, it might just be dirt. We don't know. But worst case scenario, if that stuff is the enriched uranium gas, etc., it's assessed to be at 60% grade. Weapons grade is 90%. So that means that it can't right now be turned into, at least in Iraq, excuse me, into a bomb. It can be turned into a radiological device. It can be turned into a dirty bomb, as you might call it. But that is not a nuclear weapon. That's something that spreads radioactive material wherever it blows up. It's not really that effective as a kinetic weapon. It doesn't spread it all over the place like Fukushima, or like I can't remember the name of the Russian reactor that blew up back when I was a kid. It just doesn't have that great a spread. Even with a large bomb, it wouldn't have that great a spread. And it's easy to deal with. You can clean it up. You can collect it and get it all together again. It's easy to detect with radiological equipment, with a Geiger counter, to use one of the devices. So it's more scary sounding than it is scary acting if they were to do that. And the other thing is, if they were to do that, they would have to build the device. They'd have to get it somewhere. They don't have airplanes that can bomb us. They can't get here. They'd have to bring it over in a suitcase or in a shipping container. And guess what? We have devices that detect that kind of stuff. And I can tell you firsthand knowledge that we do detect that kind of stuff, and we interdict it often at sea by the Coast Guard. So it's not just as easy as we're just going to pick up this radioactive gas and dust and put it into some explosive device and put it in a car bomb and blow it up in Las Vegas. It's layers and layers removed from that sort of ease. So to put everybody's mind at ease on that one, it could be out there somewhere, but it's not going to get turned into a nuclear bomb. And if it is turned into something, getting it here to attack the homeland would be difficult. It would be probably more likely used in theater, where they could drive it somewhere and do it that way. All right. So what other things have been talked about? Well, one of the cool little propaganda tools that was put out over the weekend was that somebody had apparently leaned into Trump's ear and said, if you attack Iran, they're going to unleash terror cells. They're going to unleash sleeper cells. Okay. Well, that sounds scary, but let me just talk a little bit about that. Sleeper cells do really well for espionage work, because you recruit somebody, you emplace them, whether they are local or whether they're a plant that you have them, raised up in the system, immigrant, whatever it is, somebody who's implanted into a country to do espionage work. They know from the time they get there, they've got a mission, and they've got a handler, and they've got people who are telling them what to do and tasking them with where to go and helping them get to the places they need to get to, and in order to be an effective spy. That happens. You can read any number of accounts of that, whether they're Cuban, whether they're Russian, whether they're whatever. It's more difficult if you're a terrorist, because one, spies are effective from the minute they get to the place they need to work. So you don't have a long lag time. You're not waiting 20, 30, 40 years before they get to do their job. Terrorists have to wait until they're activated. All right. So Let's just say you recruit a young 20-year-old, some Iranian student. He's able to slip into the country during the Obama days when we had a student exchange program and they could come and do that. He's able to get naturalized, or he's able to get his green card. He's able to pass through all the immigration checks. He now has to wait. When is he going to be activated? He doesn't know. The last time that would have happened, when somebody could have gotten in, would have been in 2016, because in 2017, Trump stopped the immigration process, stopped accepting Iranians. Much more difficult, much more stringent, many more interviews, much more of a focus on these folks coming in. So let's assume that the last one came in November of 2016. He's now been in country 8 years. What's happened in 8 years? Life has happened. He has waited. He has not been contacted. He's had to get work and have a job and support himself, because one of the things about a sleeper cell is you want to minimize contacts. You want to minimize ways for them to be detected. And so there's not a whole lot of contact between that person and their handlers, that person and Iran. So they're on their own and waiting, unknowing when the next thing is going to happen. Maybe they got all excited when we killed Soleimani back in 2018, 2019. And they were really mad at us. And then nothing happened, and they were told to stand down, or they were just ignored. And along the way, again, life, they get ingrained in the culture here. They become like every other immigrant that has been here, more and more American each day. Maybe they get married, maybe they have children, maybe they have a family. And it's difficult to keep people motivated over a process like that. Now, are there sleeper cells here? I'm sure they've tried. I'm sure there are some. I'm sure some of those will be activated. But I'm sure a lot of them are going to go, you know what? I'm done. I've had it. It's too hard now. I don't want to put my family at risk. I like my life too much as it is. I don't want to be on the run anymore. To back this up, by the way, you can read a work by a gentleman by the name of John Horan, Horan, Irish. I think he's at the University of Ohio University, whatever they call themselves. Anyway, he's now from Northern Ireland, came here, did some great work about 15 years ago about why and how terrorists stop being terrorists. And most of them stop being terrorists because they're tired of the life. They're tired of running. They're tired of being underground. They're tired of having to be paranoid. And they just slip away into the woodwork and decommission themselves. And that's what happens with sleeper cells. Okay. So if you're worried that 10,000 Iranians screaming Allahu Akbar are going to jump out and start blowing things up around the US, that's really not going to happen. Will there be some attacks? Yes, I'm sure there will be. Will they be motivated by Iran? Maybe. But a lot of them are just going to be because they're the same reason that idiot threw fire bombs at a bunch of Jewish demonstrators in Colorado a couple of weeks ago. Self-activated, lone wolf, same kind of stuff we see all the time. They're just, instead of wearing a red hat, they'll be wearing a black flag T-shirt or a headband.
But what if they're
going to do the same thing?
Like, what if somebody activates them? Like, for example, there have been suggestions that maybe there are like people who will like talk to young men online and kind of radicalize them through friendship and stuff like that. Like, it doesn't even have to be somebody who, would be friendly to Iran because maybe they came from there, or they had family there. Like, what if it's just people on the internet kind of goading people who happen to be residing in America into doing, basically stochastic terrorism, just kind of putting lots of ideas out there and then doing some type of cyber attack in that way?
That has been going on since we've had the internet. The attacks that we've seen have been exactly from that. It's not like they're going to pick up in pace and intensity, because they've been at high pace and intensity all along. You can't get any more mad by this than you were about blowing up Soleimani, or I mean, the number of things we've done to piss off just Iran have been pretty numerous. And we've seen basically everything they could do. They're not going to terror harder because of this. They've been terroring as hard as they possibly can, or as they possibly could have been for the last, my God, let's just say since 1978. So we've kind of seen the worst being 9/11. We've pretty much figured out how to watch ourselves. We weren't really very careful prior to 9/11. We weren't careful on 9/10, obviously. And I'm genuinely not terribly worried. Now, there's another thing as well. Today, the Iranians obviously retaliated on our airbase at Al Udeid. They picked the most heavily defended airbase in the region, tons and tons of air defense around it, inside a country that has its own air defense, so multiple layers of air defense. They alerted the country. They alerted the Qataris well in advance, so that they could have their systems up and ready and looking for incoming missiles. They shot apparently 14 missiles, the number 14 being symbolic because that's the number of bombs we dropped, so tit for tat. And we apparently knocked them all out of the sky. There are no either civilian or military casualties, Qatari or US or anybody else that we're aware of. And then they said, okay, we're done. That's it. They declared victory and walked away, which is exactly what they did, if you remember, about a year ago when we knocked out a bunch of their missiles when they were attacking Israel. And it's has been a modus operandi for them. They need to save face for their home team, for the hardliners who support the regime. They've got to do something. They can't just let the U.S. bomb them. But they also know that they have no air defense. They have no ability to stop us if we want to come back and do more and bomb other things. And they would rather survive than not. So they said, we're done. And I believe strongly that means also with the terrorist attacks that they might be able to pull off in the U.S. if they thought they could. So we'll see. Again, you know, and there's always the lone wolf. I acknowledge that, but I think if we didn't know that we had attacked Iran, we would not have noticed it above the pace and level of all the other shit that we deal with every single day. It would just be one in the mix. So again, we'll see. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
It would be, but Iran isn't. It's not happening in a vacuum, I guess. Like, you know, we've been seeing some like really like, you know, horrific things people have done, like somebody lighting themselves on fire in front of the embassy last year, talking about what's going on in Gaza. So it kind of seems like Iran is bad and we don't want to encourage Iran, but is this sort of contributing to a pattern of world events that is kind of just making the world more dangerous by handling these conflicts in, you know, in the way that we have been over the last year or so?
I don't think it's going to add to the level of and intensity of it at all. It's already there. Is it bad? Yeah, it's bad. I don't think it could really get any worse. They've been practicing terror against us as hard as they could for a very, very long time. For almost all of everybody here's life, we've lived under the threat of Islamic terrorism, whether that was back in the days when they were hijacking planes and cruise ships, whether it was back in the day when they were just offing us in the streets of Beirut or other places where we happened to be overseas, or whether they were flying airplanes into buildings. And will there be more? Yes. Are they going to stop just because Iran, the mullahs say stop? No, because there's always the lone wolf out there. Or maybe the mullahs will try to do it surreptitiously, although I doubt it. I really do doubt it. They got far more to lose than they have to gain right now. But you know, could it get worse? I don't see how it could get worse than it already has been. It doesn't get much worse than 3,000 casualties in one day from flying planes into buildings. And we've made it much harder for them to do that. I mean, the bad news is that we've got a police state, or at least the beginnings of a police state in the United States of America. The good news is, if there is any, that police states are really good at suppressing terrorism inside their own borders.
Yeah, see, but that's the thing is I don't lose sleep. I wasn't losing sleep over Iran. I've been losing sleep over the police state and like the
I
implications
agree.
for what's going to happen at home. So it's, you know, it's hard for me to like I'm very cynical about the context surrounding all of this. So I guess I do worry a little bit about some type of like terrorism happening as a result. But what I'm more worried about is them using the threat of terrorism as an excuse to take away even more freedom, be
I
even worse to
agree
immigrants. You know, it's
100%.
slippery
Yes.
slope.
That is the real threat, is what we will do to ourselves to counter this. And honestly, that's why I'm trying to downspin people. You know, don't be running around the streets worrying about terrorism, because then the lawmakers will take that as an opportunity to say, well, we can fix that. Everybody has to carry an ID with them at all times. Everybody needs background checks for every single thing you ever want to do. No guns, no this, no that, no whatever. Although no guns wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. Although I would be curious to see how that would work in the MAGA world. Nonetheless, no, I completely agree with that. This is exactly the kind of environment that an autocratic government can use to seize more power. It's exactly how we got the Patriot Act. It's exactly how we got Homeland Security. So yeah, I can totally see MAGA and Congress and all, you know, just the usual suspects claiming that now we have to really be worried about Iran. I think going against that is the fact that Trump is such a dumbass. You know, he's claiming victory and running victory laps. He just, by the way, in case you didn't know, as we were going live here, he's announcing that Israel and Iran have come to a peace agreement or ceasefire. I'm not gonna. I'll wait and see about that. But it'd be difficult for him to, you know, to crow like a rooster about that, and then turn around and say, "Oh, now we've got to ratchet down and make everybody miserable and paranoid because the threat's greater." I mean, it's in his political interest to say it's not, but we'll see what he does. We just don't know. So yes, long story short, I agree with you and what you said. Yes, I'm way more worried about the political reaction here in the United States than I am about anything that the Iranians or anybody else is going to do externally. I've yammered on for 25 minutes. Louis, what do you think about all this?
Well, first of all, there's no way. I'm wondering if Ed can really hold that pose for that long. There's no.
No,
He's,
so I think Ed is probably still in the
he's
OR.
okay,
He had to set up the meeting, and then he's using his avatar or
I
whatever you
was
call
like,
it.
that
Yeah,
is one impressive pose there, you know.
he's way too antsy for that. That's for
Right,
sure.
right, right. No, I've been listening in. I actually agree with everything you've said. I had this conversation with a friend of mine over the weekend. Um, and we were talking about the reality. I mean, we're safe here. I don't think that's the issue at all. I mean, just the amount of resources alone. I mean, everything you said. But I think it's more the fact that the administration, in my opinion, just seems to kind of just wake up and figure things out without much thought into these decisions that are being made. I mean, we know that from day one. But when you're dealing with something, of this magnitude, that's the concerning part, to me at least. But yeah, with regard to, our safety and worrying about a nuclear bomb and so forth, I think that is really low on the worry meter, if you will, at least in my head. Does it mean that the decisions are justified and I agree with them all? No, of course not. But it just means in terms of like, end of the world type scenarios, I don't think we're there.
No, um, it's easy to sort of think, why did we suddenly do this?
Right.
And wonder how we pulled this out of our ass. Let me just address a couple of things there. One, I can tell you right now, the military's had plans on how to do this probably from 30 years ago. As long as I have been involved in it, we have thought about how we're going to do things like this to people who have this stuff, which is exactly why we invented this bomb. It's never been used before. It was only in anticipation for deep underground bunkers in places like Natanz, like Fordo. And you can think of another country on the other side of the Asian continent who also has a similar problem that they pose to us. So it was easy for the military to figure out how they wanted to do this.
Mhm.
I think what we're talking about, I mean, why did Trump suddenly flip a switch and make this happen, is because it was an opportunity that the Israelis presented us. We did not realize. So when Gaza kicked off, well, God, was it 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago? It seems like forever ago now. Hamas preempted Iranian control and attacked Israel. Not that Iran was unhappy that Israel was attacked, but Hamas did it on their own for the most part and surprised everybody, to include Iran. That presented Israel, since they surprised everybody, nobody, meaning Hezbollah, was not ready to support them. Iran was not ready to support them. The Houthis were ready to do something, but they're on the other side of the Arabian Peninsula, so they could really not do any direct support. So that gave Israel the opportunity, because nobody else was ready, to go in and wipe out Hamas. They've done that. Hamas hardly exists anymore. When Hezbollah started kicking off, Israel then, again, because they knew that they didn't have a lot of interference from Iran, because Iran wasn't ready, blew up the leadership of Hezbollah with, remember, the pager bomb thingies going off? They essentially decapitated Hezbollah and scared the shit out of the rest of them. You may recall that Iran then launched a bunch of missiles at them. Well, again, because they were able to do this in detail, meaning they took care of one, then they took care of the other. Now Iran's coming at them. They knocked the missiles out of the sky. That significantly reduced Iran's missile inventory. They launched way more than they could produce in the time between now and then. So Iran was already in a weakened state. When Israel, and I'm sure they did this, I'll acknowledge they probably figured out, if we can do this, we can give the Americans this on a platter, and they'll come in and blow up the facilities with their special bombs that we don't have. So let's just go ahead and wipe out the Iranian Air Force while we have this opportunity, while they don't have the missiles to attack us, while they don't have everything ready to go. And let's do that now. And they did. And they were wildly successful at it. There is no Iranian Air Force to speak of. There is no Iranian air defense to speak of. There's nothing they can really do. The IDF has owned the skies there for the past at least week, if not 2 weeks. They completely control. They can bomb anywhere they want to, do anything they want. Iran can't do a damn thing about it. So they turn around to the U.S. and say, we would love to wipe out these nuclear facilities. You have the ability to do that. Mm-hmm. We've now given you your one of your number one foreign policy priorities, as witnessed by the fact that Obama had a special treaty with them. And you can knock this out. You're just going to have to drop a few bombs. You're good at that. You've done that. You know how to do it. And we'll take care of everything else. I got to tell you, I think there are a number of people. I'm not going to put anything on you guys, but I think there are a number of people in the liberal space who would be standing and cheering if Biden had done this, if Biden had been in position to do this and had done what Trump has done. And I think it's really kind of a shame, honestly, that just simply because Trump, it was the one that did it. There are a number of people who say it was a bad thing because it was Trump that did it. I've been very upfront from Saturday night in saying that this was a good thing. If we take out the nuclear program, it's a net good. And we did it, by the way, without killing a lot of people. I'm not sure we killed anybody. I'd be surprised if 1 or 2 didn't die. But these were not in civilian spaces. They weren't in cities, and the bombs we dropped were very precise. So we took out what we wanted to take out, or at least we think we did, or we've got a very good chance of having take out the underground facilities without blowing up a bunch of innocents. And we don't have to come back. If we do come back, IDF control the skies. We can come back anytime we want, I'm pretty sure, and finish up the job if we have to. or we can walk away, one and done.
Okay, I got a thought experiment for you.
Yep.
And okay, so the same people that would be happy if Biden did it, do you think that if instead of Biden and Iran, it was Trump and Russia and us, Trump taking out Russia on behalf of Ukraine, do you think that those same people would be mad or they would be happy about it?
I don't know. And I mean, the reality that Russia is such a much larger target with a much higher risk factor because they do have the ability to strike us back from ICBMs and from submarines with nuclear weapons. That I mean, I don't think you can really make that comparison. But to try to get to at least the gist of what you want, I think maybe so. I think there'd be a number of people that'd be incredibly happy if Trump were to take out Russian military capability. It's not possible, so I don't see that happening, though.
Yeah, and I think, maybe the word happy may not be the right word. I think, maybe it's more a feeling of I probably would have done the same thing kind of a feeling, not like you're happy about it, but
Yeah.
what I was going to say, well, by the way, this shouldn't surprise us though, because remember when Trump was elected the first time, didn't he use that big ass bomb or whatever they call it, and he dropped it like within the first few months or something? Remember?
The Moab, the mother
Yeah,
of
the
all
Moab, the
bombs.
mother of
Yeah.
all bombs or whatever the heck it was. I mean,
Yeah, I'm going to say
there's
I
a pattern
remember
here,
I remember that it happened. I don't remember why we dropped. I can't remember what the target was that we would have dropped it on. I don't remember.
It's
I honestly
some
don't. I would expected it was in Afghanistan. but
Afghanistan. I remember it was at Afghanistan. I don't remember what the target was, but some strategic, thing,
Yeah.
and who knows what.
And we had used one of those before early on in that war
Yeah,
to take
right.
out to take out a tunnel system. Yeah.
My point is like this is a pattern, right? I mean, it's nothing. He tends to like these big moments of dropping bombs on.
He got gifted this on a silver platter. I mean, I'm mad about the fact that he got to do it. I really am. Because he's gonna get a bump. Wall Street was perversely high today. If that gives you any indicator of the mood of at least the investor class. Yeah, he's going to get a bump from this, and I wish that didn't happen. But what I'm happier about, what I'm less unhappy about, I guess, Louis, is that if we did destroy Iran's nuclear capability, that's a huge problem taken off the world.
Right. No. I heard you say when I first jumped on, I heard you I thought that's what you were talking about. And that's where I think the problem is. You're right. Because if, we can debate on the policy all day, but the point is like, was the objective accomplished? Right. I don't know. There's no clear answer right
now. Nobody knows yet. Although the early indicators would suggest that it did, but again, it's going to take time to confirm that. And that's just the nature of battle damage assessment.
And there is a degree too of like, now everybody's attention is away from the ICE raids and, all of these other crazy things that are going on domestically. And again, that's a whole other kind of topic, but to your point, I mean, there are going to be people that are going to look at this and they're going to have the reaction of like, oh, it's about time, or I would have done the same thing, or I don't trust those guys anyway, or whatever their justification is, and that, I guess to a degree is going to cause people to take their eyes off the ball, so to speak, on all of the other things that are going on, including, by the way, we have this big, beautiful bill being debated. I mean, there's, all of these other things that are critical to the domestic policy that are taking somewhat of a backstage, I think.
Well, I'm curious. Yeah. I mean, I realize it's Monday and this happened Saturday night. So we're not even a full 48 hours or so into this, since the bombs dropped. But I'm curious if you're getting any kind of feedback at all from your political contacts on what's happening with the big, beautiful bill in regards to this. I mean,
I am actually. I was getting a lot today, and generally speaking, it's just a mess. I mean, the Senate has proposed their version that we know of, and there's been a lot of things that have been gutted from the House bill and Trump's proposal. So they're basically taking one of the biggest things I remember from today was the Senate proposed to not go so far into the SNAP cuts
Yeah.
and some of the requirements. And obviously, that's going to be problematic to the administration. There were a couple of other items in there about eligibility. It's just more of a bill that you would see from like a moderate caucus that's being presented by the Senate.
Yeah.
And they are forecasting that they might have to start kicking the can down the road again, as they've done for, years, it seems, to get this budget passed. They're probably not going to make their deadline, is what I'm hearing. Originally, the deadline from some of the senators was the middle of July, but there's no way, I don't think, from what I'm hearing today.
We're there, you know.
Right, right. We're essentially there. And
Yeah.
then, of course,
Um,
the Iran bomb dropping situation is what they're saying is, oh, we need more time because of this whole, so they're
right.
kind of, it fell in their lap, essentially. It's a perfect excuse.
Yeah. I
So
saw the Senate parliamentarian kick some things as well.
was
So
that today or?
I think it was,
Yeah, there's been so much going back and forth.
I know. I know.
I mean,
I
it's
have
like,
genuinely lost track of what happened when.
yeah, I don't know.
I had to think about how long ago it was when we had the big missile attacks back and forth from Iran and Israel, and we were knocking missiles out of the skies. And that was just last year. It seems like it was forever ago.
It's insane. No, it really is. I mean, yeah, it's just, the times we live in, man, are just, I mean, they're surreal and bizarre at the same time. I don't,
Yeah.
I wonder if the stock market went up the other day
That's a good
because
question.
of the tech CEOs who were sworn in as lieutenant colonels, I think. Executives from Palantir and Meta, if I'm
I,
not
you know,
mistaken.
I don't know how that could swing an entire market. I know what you're talking about.
Well, there's also all the other defense contractors too. I mean, people make money during
I,
war.
but it's, I mean, compared to the rest of the market, it's such a specific slice of the economy. I don't know. The thing is, if anybody really knew what moved markets, they would in fact have manipulated the market to a degree that they could just rule the world. We don't know. I mean, that's the magic of the market, is it's all about human emotion.
But Elon Musk has been manipulating the market for a couple of years. That's why the SEC was suing him. He pulled that crap with Twitter. Like, they are kind of doing that a little bit.
You can manipulate segments. You can manipulate your stock. Maybe you can manipulate your industry to some degree, but you can't manipulate the entire market.
Yeah, but when it's tech and energy and defense, like
if you
these
would, listen. I don't. Go ahead. If you can prove me wrong, prove me wrong. But I really don't think so. It's way too big a beast for any cabal of people to manipulate the entire market.
I'm not saying it's a cabal, but I'm just saying that it's one of those things that people start speculating. They start thinking about what will make the money. Like, look at what happened with the tariffs. We saw a lot of weird activity going on in the market.
Well, let me a couple of things to point out when you're looking at the market and you look at how it's doing this thing. First off, it's only today did it pick up to the same point, to the same level of value. I'm talking about the S&P 500 to be specific, that it was when Trump took office. Basically, we have been trading sideways for 6 months, dips and valleys, big valley dips, and finally getting back up to where we were 6 months ago. So that's not exactly a win. The second thing is the volume of trading is significantly down where it was, again, 6 months ago, which means there are a lot of people that are sitting on the sidelines. You can manipulate the value of a stock much easier when there's only a few people buying and selling it. When you look at the big institutional investors, and by institutional, I mean the mutual fund companies, those types of folks who have the bulk of the money in the market, most of those companies have billions in cash right now. They're waiting to buy, which means they're not trading. They're not doing the dips. The dips are being manipulated by the small time people. By small time, I mean the folks who aren't in the market in billions. And yeah, you can do that and you can make some money day trading, but that's essentially what you're doing. But as far as the long-term buy and hold strategies that you really need in order to fuel the economy, that's not happening. Which is why you've got Jamie Dimon and other people out there who actually do this for a living saying, like, this. There's no reason, there's no logical reason for the values to be where they are right now. When will it drop? I don't know, but I'm in cash. I've been in CDs and bonds since January, and I haven't lost a dime.
Right.
I have all my money in NFTs. I'm just kidding.
There you go.
I don't have any NFTs.
Listen, you got your Trump superhero pen. Go for it, man.
So the question, I know Ed dropped this thing in the chat here about this ceasefire deal. Is that real, or is this something that he's just talking?
Well, that's what I meant.
That's
what I meant. That's what I mentioned earlier. Literally, as Ed and I were manipulating the Zoom link to get on here, Trump was, my phone was going nuts on that. Is it real? I think, well, my initial response was Trump would be an absolute idiot to announce that in multiple venues. But then again, Trump is an absolute idiot, so I don't know.
I mean, he's done weirder things. I mean,
yeah.
I heard that they killed the main negotiator that they were negotiating with. And I also heard right before I came online too, that Iran says they have no idea what he's talking about. So
I like I said,
it's just like a Kofifi tweet, not very well thought out at all. So
well, they're talking about getting the Shah's son back, and making him the next Shah or president or whatever it is they're getting, which is really the dumbest thing in the world. If the Iranian regime is going to be changed, it should be done by the Iranian people, and they should be the ones making the rules, and we should stay the fuck out of the way, because we have zero credibility in that part of the world right now when it comes to regime change. Zero.
Yeah. No, I heard he lives in Bethesda.
I don't know. I don't.
Son.
I don't know where he lives, but I can tell you that for a brief moment back in 1978, 1979, he was my cousin's classmate in New York City.
Oh wow!
Yeah, when the Shah was in the hospital after he'd been deposed, and he was in the cancer ward and all of that, he sent his kids to private school, and that just happened to be a classmate of my cousin, which means absolutely nothing.
6 degrees of separation.
6 degrees of nothingness. But anyway.
But it's interesting because now that this whole thing has been in the ether, I got some videos recommended to me that were like puff pieces about the Shah's. Is it his son or his grandson? I think it's
his son. I thought it was his son. Yeah, because his son. So my cousin would be 54 years old, 55 years old, and I think that's how old this guy was. And the pictures I've seen of him, he looks like he's got a gray beard. So let's just go with that.
Yeah. And I mean, I just kind of wonder, maybe he just has some domestic support among Iranian Americans or something like that, that maybe this is an idea that's been percolating for a while with people that, they want to install him.
The Iranian diaspora is not entirely unlike the Cuban diaspora, in that, a lot of the ones that are here and the ones with money that are here are the ones who were aligned with the Shah and, either got kicked out, either left early because they saw the handwriting on the wall, or got kicked out as soon as people figured out who they were. So, yeah, I wouldn't say that's universal, but I'd say that's certainly a strong element in the Iranian community, especially when in Louis' neighborhood, LA, where you've got entire chunks of neighborhoods that are, entirely Persian. And so, I think those people might be friendly to the idea and thinking that maybe they're going to be able to get back in and get some of the glory that was once theirs. But I really, I think the Iranian people, the people who, I think the average age is 35 or something, very young. They're well past that. They weren't even born when the mullahs took over and the Shah was deposed. I don't think they've got any strong feelings about who should be king. I don't think they want that. But that's for them to decide, not me.
I don't know how they would do it though. I mean, maybe now that a lot of the leaders have been taken out and the military is weakened, if there was some sort of populist uprising, maybe they could pull it off. But I just, it just seems like it would be a hard thing to do, and like, how could we do it without ending up with like a Libya type of situation, which nobody wants?
There's no guarantee. Syria seems to have done reasonably well. We'll see,
Wasn't
maybe.
wasn't that guy in Al Qaeda, the guy they have in there now?
When you're in that world and doing that sort of stuff, you align with anybody who's going to help you. It doesn't mean you're one of them. It just means that y'all happen to agree with the end objective, or at least the immediate objectives. You have the same enemy. Let's just put it that way. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, that sort of thing. So I think it's really facile to say, well, they worked with Al Qaeda, so or whomever.
Well, I'm just saying we had like a really long, drawn out war because of Al Qaeda. So I just want to make sure we're not.
I know. I would say realistically, that's the same kind of thinking that pushed us away from Ho Chi Minh when we had a real opportunity to ally ourselves with Ho Chi Minh and not have a war in Vietnam. But because, he was supposedly, allied with the Chinese and all of this, therefore he had to be one of the bad guys. And we just said no. I hope we're past that. I don't think our current administration is past that, but I hope we as a people are past that.
I hope so too, because there's a lot of commonality, and I think you might have brought this up last week or offline, where we're putting ourselves into situations that are unfamiliar. In the Middle East, it might be like an urban warfare situation, whereas Vietnam, we were in the jungle. But the same thing holds, is it's like it's not your turf. There's all these little nooks and crannies and things that, are difficult for somebody who's not from there to anticipate. Like, you're always going to have that home turf advantage. So, yeah, I think compromise is definitely a good thing. I'm on board with that because it's not good for anybody.
I think more of the point would be no purity tests. No purity tests. Back to the Ho Chi Minh thing. When the French, when the Japanese left Vietnam and the French were on their way back in to take control, and it was being managed by the British, Ho Chi Minh, who was the leader, of course, of the resistance, the Vietnamese resistance, sent a letter to Harry Truman saying, "We want to be your friends," basically. And that letter was never delivered to Harry Truman because some aide along the way just decided he was going to edit that out, that it didn't need to happen.
Oh my God.
Just to give you an idea of the level of stupidity that we have imposed on ourselves. I mean, how different might the world have been had that happened? And that was prior to Korea, by the way, when we weren't so worried about maybe as much as the domino effect as we were much later. So yeah, saying somebody was allied with a movement we didn't like or that we dropped bombs on at one time, if they're willing to talk now and willing to deal with us as human beings, I think we ought to do that. I can see MAGA shooting me for that. Oh, well, I don't know if we've lost Louis or what. And Ed's, I'm sure, maybe still working. We've got 10 minutes. What do you want to talk about, Christine? I'm all talked out of bombing Iran right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got it all out of your system. But I mean, it's a constantly evolving situation, right? And like we said before, it's not happening in a vacuum. There's all of this baggage, from centuries of different wars all around the world. And, maybe we want to touch back on like the domestic issues and, things that we might want to be aware of going forward now that we're living under increased security. So as somebody who is really good at OPSEC, what are some things that you think people can do to maintain their privacy during times of increased surveillance?
You've been watching my videos in my group. I see. Okay. Okay. I think the number one thing, okay, so, let's be realistic. Whether you're worried about Iranian terrorists, MAGA terrorists, or just crime in general, the number one thing you can do is don't be seen. And I don't mean don't go to protests. I don't mean stifle your First Amendment rights. Not at all. Not even remotely. But what I do mean is when you're not actively engaged in a protest and wearing your freak flag, on your chest and all that sort of stuff, it's probably not a good idea to wear that when you're grocery shopping with your neighbors who might feel differently than you. It's absolutely a bad idea almost any time these days to wear that stuff on your car when you're driving down the road and suddenly you've got somebody following you to your house.
Yeah.
We need to start really thinking about keeping a lower profile when we don't need to be out making a point. That's the number one thing. If you're not seen, you can't be targeted. I'm going to violate that rule here in, good Lord, I guess 4 months, November, for the election coming up. And in Virginia, we've got our state elections this November. And I will have a big ass sign on my fence, which is just catty corner to one of the polling stations. So it's one of the last things that people will see. And I thought about it and decided that I'm going to do that because I do it all the time. And because I've also hardened myself as a target. I won't go through all the details, but I think you can see, those are the ones I hang up on the wall. and I've made the access points very restrictive. So if anybody wants to come get me because of the sign on my fence, they're going to have to jump through a few hoops before they actually get to see my face. And when they do, it'll be on the other side of a pair of sights if I've got at least a minute to get ready. So I made that decision, but I made a deliberate decision. If you are not ready to make that deliberate decision and harden yourself as a target, then I would say don't. And the reality is, if you look at the studies, yard signs don't make a damn bit of difference. I mean, minuscule points of difference. Maybe mine might, because it's right across the street from the polling place. But I flatter myself that it might make a little bit of difference, but it's not going to be that much. But it's an emotional decision that I made based on the fact that I think I can probably handle the threat. But other than that, no, I'm not going to be, you could drive by my house and not even notice that it belonged to anybody different than anybody else in my neighborhood, even a little bit. Bumper stickers are not, unless you want to call me a Democrat because I've got a bear on my license plate. That's it.
So, everybody's kind of got to take their own inventory and assess their level of risk and then, be very deliberate and calculated about what you reveal and when.
Well, I think the other thing is, here we are online. Now, I can see your name, but I don't know your last name. I still don't know your last name. And I've been talking to you for months. That's cool. I know Ed's last name. I know Louie's last name. Y'all don't know any of my name. Unless, of course, you see my emails. But and I did that. I did that back in 2019 on purpose because I wanted to have a voice and not lose business contacts over it, not lose business, period, because of the things I was saying. So I created a persona online that is different from my regular true name. We have the same attitudes and ideas, but this bastard is a hell of a lot more mouthy than the other one is these days. And that's because I don't want anybody to know. I don't want anybody down at my local grocery store saying, hey, there's that Harry Ramsbottom guy. Well, if you don't see my face, I don't think there's enough people watching this channel to know. And that's why on Schrodinger's Snowflake, I don't. I keep it from going anywhere because I don't want people to see what I'm saying and be able to identify this mug with those attitudes in the public marketplace. So that's another thing. I would say realistically, yeah, cover yourself online, whether you want to create a different web page or whatever it is. If you're going to be out there saying stuff, you might want to do it under a different name or at least a name that is harder to find. And for people to not be able to identify that, hey, that's my neighbor. I know them. Guess what? I can go and fuck them up. So those are some.
And you do got to watch out for that because that's how recommendation algorithms work, is that if you're in the same proximity to somebody or your number is like in their phone, if your real name is on something, it'll start getting recommended to them.
Yeah.
So the internet's forever.
and I'm not dumb enough to realize that people couldn't somehow find me if they really, really wanted to. And certainly the government would know exactly who I am with just a few keystrokes. I mean, you're not going to hide from the government in that regard. But the asshole that I bumped into at the grocery store, on my way back from the rally with my freak flag on my chest, I don't want. He doesn't have the energy, and probably not always, but sometimes doesn't have the smarts to be able to do the math and figure out where I am. And that's I just want to make it difficult, put layers of difficulty between me and the public, or this persona of me and the public, so that they can't find me out easily.
It's called friction.
Friction. One of the coolest ways somebody described it to me was you take a packet of sliced Swiss cheese, and they've all got the holes going in the same direction for the most part. But if you take those slices and you rotate them and flip them around in different directions, those holes now become covered by the other slices of cheese. And that's what you're trying to do, is put layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. And hopefully that those micro plans will add up into a much bigger protection plan for you. If you want to know more, though, you've got to subscribe to Harry Ramsbottom on Facebook, and then you have to join my group, Schrodinger's Snowflake. and then you can see me all the time talking about this, and you can take these lessons home on your own. And by the way, there's no cost to that. I don't want anybody to think I'm making money on it, because I'm not.
You have enough money, right? You don't need it.
No, I don't. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough money. Yeah, the no is I don't have enough money, and I do need it. But I think, I've been doing Facebook long enough that I do get paid for it now, but it's like $35 a month or something. I don't even know what the math looks like. It's just, trust me, I lose more money doing Facebook because I should be doing other things.
Oh, I believe it.
A labor of love.
Right, exactly.
A labor of frustration. A labor of frustration.
No, it does get your blood pressure going sometimes on Facebook. I've just, kind of learned to just not so much.
Oh yeah. You got to take a break every once in a while. It's insane,
Well, I for those of you who might have noticed, I did go out like on a limb very quickly after the bombs dropped, and with an assessment of what happened and why, and very pro, this is a good thing to do. And I have lost about maybe 0.75% of my audience.
Really?
But every one of them sons of bitches was mouthy. God damn it, they said a lot of stuff.
Well, Adam Kinzinger lost some followers too, so you're in good company.
I listen. You got to weed the garden sometimes, so that's fine. That didn't bother me, but there was a point there when I was like, oh, another. I'm not taking that. Done. You're out of here.
Right.
But hopefully, now that Monday is almost over, maybe I'm past that now. Well, we're almost done time-wise. Any predictions on what's going to happen this week?
No, man. I mean, craziness. That's a prediction right there,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting week. I mean, for many reasons. One is because of the the budget bill that's going to be debated. Then you got the fallout of the bombings. Then you got ICE raids going on. It's just going to be, I think, one of the more interesting weeks to see what happens. So
yeah, and rumors are flying all over the place. It's hard to step on them. You can't step on them fast enough.
No, you can't.
The amount of disinformation that's going on out there from all different sources is, if it wasn't so dangerous, it'd be hilarious. But it is dangerous.
Exactly. Yep.
All right. Well, Ed, I don't know where you are, whether you're still in the operating room or in your car, but you missed a hell of a show.
There he is.
There he is.
I was gonna say, there's no way he can hold that pose for that long.
That guy's a walking HIPAA violation right now. All right. Well, I would say see you all next week, but God only knows what's going to happen between now and then. But I think it was a good show. Anybody else got anything to close it out with? Because I'm done.
No, I'm good. It's going to be an interesting week, like I said, man. Just keep your eyes and ears to the news, and we'll meet next time.
Okay. Christine, anything?
Um, Try not to get distracted. Call your senator and tell them that we're still paying attention to the bill. We didn't forget. So that's all I have to say.
All right. Well, I don't know how to kill this thing, but I'm just going to leave. And if